What's up, LEGO builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for a rare, non-Clone Wars themed video.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Today, I am challenging myself to build 3 of the coolest scenes or moments from the Mandalorian Season 3 as LEGO Star Wars Mocs. It will just be scenes from episodes 1 through 4, since, that's all that's out right now. This should be obvious, but spoilers ahead if you haven't already started the show. But let's be real, if you haven't by now, all the cool stuff has already been spoiled. To spice things up, I am going to be building these 3 Mocs under 3 different time limits: 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and 1 hour. But that's everything you need to know, so grab your Baby Yoda stuffed animal, Grogu stuffed animal. Don't want to start any riots here. And let's get building. This first mock is more of a representation of a bigger scene or moment. I'm building Mando, Bo, and Grogu walking through the ruins of Mandalore in episode 2. I chose this scene to represent our first look at the massive ruin that was the capital city. It was such an awe-inspiring and sad moment to see such a massive, impressive city laid to waste. And the fact that it's now all underground makes this scene so much cooler. And with everything being green from the bombs and just the damage and poison and everything that happened, I feel like that makes these ruins very unique from other stuff we see in pretty much any other form of media other than the Emerald City, I guess. I'm starting with those 8x8 dark bluish gray grate pieces, as they will save me a lot of time, as all I have to do is slap them down and boom, I've got a finished floor. I'm taking a big gamble with making the mock this big. I tend to bite off more than I can chew with these mocks because I want them to be cool, but I also need to remember that bigger does not always equal better.
It's bigger! It's better!
I'm going to add 1 sad wall on the back of the mock. Originally, I was going to have 2 walls, basically have them walking down a hallway, but I felt with how narrow and small this mock was, it would make it harder to see really the only details of this mock, which would be the walls and the minifigs. So this mock is underwhelming. I want to get that out of the way quick because I've had an awakening.
It's kind of nice up here, though.
These timed mock challenges have been getting harder and harder for me. I feel like I try to make the mocks too big and they turn out underwhelming and under-detailed, and it's because I've slowly had this mindset change towards larger, more detailed mocks. My Coruscant mock project is massive, and most of the challenge videos I've done of late have had no time limit on them, so I'm going much bigger and more detailed with my projects overall. So when I return to this series, I feel constrained and unmotivated, and as a result, subpar mocks are produced. So my options are to start doing this series more often to get more practice within these time constraints, or lengthen the time limits to like 15 minutes, 45 minutes, and an hour and a half. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but let me know what you think about all this and the potential changes down below in the comments. Mock number 2 is going to be a challenge. Not because the scene I want to depict is complicated, because if you strip away the excitement of what's going on and remove the dope vehicles and characters, this scene is pretty boring.
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
On that note, let's start with a slab of gray brick. This will probably give away what I'm doing, and in hindsight, I think I could have made use of the giant Coruscant mock that I'm working on for this, but I figured that would probably be cheating, since so far Coruscant has taken a little bit longer than the 30-minute time limit I have to build this. Traditionally, I've thought that the 10-minute mock has been the toughest one to build since I've had so little time, but over these last few challenges, I've changed my mind. This 30-minute mock is the hardest one, because with the 10-minute one, we all know it's going to be a tiny mock, basically just a vignette of a scene, so the expectation is fairly low. But with this one, I feel obligated to do something bigger with the extra time, but it's just not enough time to do a bigger and more detailed mock. So next time I need to remember with this one, it's more about adding more detail to the mock, not necessarily just making it bigger, which I know is basically the same thing I said in the previous mock. The highlight of this will definitely be the custom gunship. I was excited to be able to use this again, and it was one of the main reasons I picked this scene. Now, some of you may be on your way to the comments telling me using the gunship violates the time limit since I didn't build it in 30 minutes or less, but I don't count pre-built builds toward the time limits, and since this is my series, I get to make the rules. Grogu and Jedi Master Kelleran Beck are making a desperate escape from clones executing Order 66 on the planet of Coruscant. Tailed by gunships and clones, they crash onto a platform and are about to board a ship to safety when they are once again attacked by clones determined to bring them down. This scene is from episode 4. I've already aired my grievances with this mock, and don't get me wrong, this scene is super cool as we get a rare scene with clones and gunships in live action, but freeze the action and look at it from a distance and it's a lot less cool. I do think if I had done this for the 1 hour mock, it could have turned out much more detailed and interesting, but I've got something special saved for that slot. I think if I were to do this one over again, I would have picked one of the scenes with these two in the Jedi Temple, maybe in the elevator or in a hallway, both of which would have been much more manageable builds for the 30-minute time slot. You know I had to save the best scene for last. This was hands down my favorite thing so far far. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, I get to build it with dark tan. It's always great pulling out all those dark tan bins of bricks. It's like getting the gang back together again to reminisce about the good old days. Now that might sound like I'm friends with a bunch of plastic bins, and well, I wish I could say that was wrong. Anyways, I gotta finish the frame before anything else, and doing small mock bases like this are getting harder and harder because Coruscant has eaten up pretty much all of my larger foundation plates, so I'm scrounging for scraps at this point.
Please, sir. More?
Now it's time to build a rounded rock wall which will dominate the backside of the mock. Some of you may have started to guess what's going on here. That's right, I'm building the scene where Bo and Din have a romantic picnic at the foot of a massive cliff. Dumb jokes aside, I was pretty excited to attempt this scene because the whole thing takes place underwater. So anything that isn't built into the terrain is either going to be suspended in air or resting on the floor. I think doing a more in-depth water mock would be fun someday. I've only ever seen a couple, one in particular being a really cool Clone Wars mock done by H2 Brick, who even included a layer of transclear parts to represent the water surface above everything. The last thing I need to do is build the mighty mythosaur head. That's right, I'm building the living water scene. I'm no animal builder, as you guys know, and I have a whopping 2 seconds of footage as a reference for this beast, so I'm just going to create a long oval-like head with giant horns and a big glaring eye. I couldn't really tell the color of it either, so I'm just going to go with dark red, which looks pretty close. Man, this scene from episode 2 was so cool. And not just because of the mythosaur, the deep chasm or underwater rift Bo dives into is really awe-inspiring, considering I'm guessing that was there before, but when the bombing happened, the pool with the living waters got opened up or connected to a massive chamber deeper underground holding the mythosaur. And speaking of the big guy, my head, while looking kind of like an elephant, turned out pretty good, and I got to cheat a little with the horns because I just stole them off of my Rhino Company ATTE.
Good grief, he's naked!
I have Bo and Din jetting up to the surface at the front of the mock. I was going to build the cliff wall behind them because that's how it is in the actual scene, but I felt doing it this way instead opened up the mock more and you can get a better shot of everything from Bo's perspective. Whereas if the cliff was behind her, I couldn't get the camera into positions like this. If you can't already tell, episode 2 has been my favorite one so far out of Mando season 3, as 2/3 of this mock challenge have been about it. These were my first Mando mocks ever, and the first non-Clone War mocks in quite some time, so I hope you guys enjoyed something new. And with this new awakening, a new mindset and understanding I've had of these challenges, I promise I'll put forth better mocks in the next challenge. One place in particular I would like to tackle is Bo-Katan's palace. Its unique design and placement on the cliff tops is just so cool. Don't forget to let me know which of these builds was your favorite, as well as which scenes you would have picked down below in the comments, and I will catch you next time, but until then, happy building.